body should be able to be connected with the neshama. So it needs to have the food. The same thing. The Eibishter is likened to filling the world like the neshama fills the body, and the karbonis are in a way of food to cause that the Eibishter should come into this world, should be machayah this world like the neshama gives chayas to the body. So now the Maimer is going to speak about what ways can this be, this chibur of the shamayim, the neshamas, and the body of the in other words, Hashem and the world. There's the way how it's done through the karbonis itself, or there's the way that it's accomplished through the level of the nesachim. So again, on top of page Chavtes, 6th page of your copies, line 3. This joining that happens between Hashem and the world through the karbonis. It can still be in such a way that the world remains in a state of concealment. Just like concerning a physical body. If a person could know that there's a neshama that's giving life to his body, the fact that he knows about it doesn't necessarily mean that he's in tune with his neshama. The body can act according to its bodily wishes, its bodily wills, not being in concert of the neshama, of the ruchnius, and so on. This is not the ultimate state of perfection of the body, that the body should act independently of the will of the neshama, without any regard for spirituality, totally involved in materialism. This is not even good for the body. And how much more so that this is not the ultimate of what the neshama needs to experience and have. Well, there's a benegel flaws in similar to this concerning the general idea of the world. Tzadikly is by from the bereshis that the world has to be in a way of bereshis. What does it mean that the world should be in the way of bereshis? The very fact that the word bereshis is the beginning of the Torah and the beginning of creation, that tells us that the entire creation is based on and surrounds and is exemplified by the word of bereshis. So what is this? The message of the word bereshis, the Rebbe says. Bereshis, we know that Rashi right away in Chumash says bereshis can be divided into 2 words. Beis reishis, or 2 things that are called reishis. Yidden are called reishis, like reishis to us. So Torah is called reishis. So we find that there's 2 reishis that for which the world was created. Bereshis bara Elokim. That for 2 reishis the Hashem created the world. What are these 2 reishis? B'shvil Yisrael, b'shvil HaTorah. The world was created for the Yidden and was created for the Torah. V'hainum, Yisrael, idea Torah, that Yidden through Torah poilim b'shamayim v'aretz chol tzvaam. Yidden through Torah affect in the heavens and the earth and all their hosts. How do we see that it affects all their hosts? Because it says Bereshis bara Elokim, Eis Hashamayim. Eis Hashamayim comes. Why does it say Eis Hashamayim? The extra word Eis could have said Bereshis bara Elokim Hashamayim. Why say Eis Hashamayim? The Rabbi is still the same, to include all its offspring, meaning everything in the heavens. The Eis Haaretz. Why does it say the Eis Haaretz? Could have said Bereshis bara Elokim Hashamayim v'Haaretz. The Eis comes the Rabbi still the to include all of its offspring, meaning everything that the earth contains, all the hosts of the earth, everything on the earth. So Yidden through Torah make not just the creation itself, but that should be recognizable in the Yidden, the fact that Elokim created them. Yesedim is even more so, like it says afterwards, at the end of the creation story. This is the story, and this is the offspring of the heavens and the earth when they were created. In the day that Havai Elokim made and did What does that mean? Instead of just being Bereshis Bara Lakim, that it's only Shem Lakim, more so than that, it's even more. It's the idea Shem Havaya Yeh Begolui, that the Shem Havaya should also be revealed. Behind this means to say though initially the way Shem Havaya was drawn down initially, it was in a way of concealment, and it was a way of covering. That's why at the beginning of creation it only says Bereshis bara Elokim. It doesn't make any mention of Havaya. And how does it conceal the idea Hamog in the Shem Elokim? Through the shield of Shem Elokim. And even then, when the shield is in operation, it doesn't mean the Shem Havaya doesn't exist. Also then, when the Eibishter is Mechai the world through the shield of Shem Elokim, still in all, Havaya is the source of the vitality, and Havaya is the source of the existence. This is one of the explanations in the word Havaya, Meloshin Mahava, from the word bringing the world into being. So obviously, it's not just that at the end of creation, Shem Havaya came into the process, but even immediately at the beginning, where all it says is Bereshis bara Elokim, Havaya was necessary to bring the world into being. That's the meaning of the word Havaya. But at the beginning of creation, it's in a state of concealment. The sheath and the shield of Shem Elokim covers over. But we say the Bereshis bara Elokim Beis Reishis through Yisrael and Torah, we bring out Poil Ma'idei Maseinu, we just say, we affect through our actions and our service. Shakadosh Baruch Hu Moitzei in that Hashem takes out the sun out of its sheath, out of its case, like it says concerning the loss of Lavoi, Shem Havaya Yeh Begolui, that Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei should be revealed. That is now going to explain this entire idea of what we need the Nesachim for. Therefore, it's insufficient. The effect of the joining of Hashem with the world, the way it's accomplished through korbanos, whether it's oila and zevach, like it says in the pasuk, though the carbon is burnt up in fire, the burning up in fire, we explained, that's the idea of the ascent from that which is down here below. Like it was explained earlier in Ois Beis. It's not just that it goes upwards. This also brings life force and vitality down here below. The Hashem, like we said, is the neshama of the world, and he's joined through this with the world. This is why the carbon is called bread, that it supports and helps out and strengthens the heart of a person that's an enish, even a weak person, like we mentioned earlier. Still in all, despite that, it's still in the way of world from the expression of concealment and covering. That means that you could have Hashem manifesting himself in the world, giving a life force to the world, giving energy to the world through the level of the carbon itself, of the oil or the zevach. But it's still going to be a world. World is the definition of concealment. The inner life force is still concealed. All that's revealed is the external life force. It's like the well-known expression of Chassidus. It's an external drawing down of Hashem. Then the Rebbe brings that in Chutei Torah, he speaks also about a pnimistic Hamshach. Even according to the second explanation that's brought down in Chutei Torah. Also through korbanos, which is an oil and zevach, even without a mincha and without nesachim, nasi yichud pnimi, there's an inner joining. So why are you telling me that when oil and zevach, it's only a yichud chitzayni, it's only an external union, it's only an external hamshach, it's not the true inner life force of Hashem becoming revealed? But even according to that second explanation, the Alter Rebbe in Chutei Torah, that with the oil one brings down hamshach pnimis, but it's still not the ultimate pnimi. Ein ze yichud pnimi v'hamshach pnimis betachlis. It's not the true yichud pnimi. It's not the ultimate inner joining and union that is supposed to be in the world. And for that, we need to have the idea of the Nesachim, as he's about to explain. Line 14, page Lamed. Says, V'lchein tzorich li is gama inyan, the mincha Nesachim. That's why it has to be also accompanying the karbanis. There has to be the meal offering, there has to be the wine that's poured. In addition to the fact that through the mincha and the nesachim, which we said before, that's made from tzemeach, therefore it's also the idea of coming down to a lower level, and it's also poured down into the ground, under the aquifer, etc., etc. So that already adds another component which the carbon itself that's brought the animal on the mizbeach does not have. In addition to that, in oiza is tamshachi by hamshachili apnimi, is the way the hamshacha comes down is a way that the inner part becomes revealed. Hamshacha pnimi is an inner type of hamshacha. Dafka is yeshnein nachas ruach chulu. Only then, when there's the inner hamshacha, is there the delight and pleasure before the eibishter. In other words, the idea, if we spoke about earlier, that there is two aspects. There is in the karbonis, there's the chalev and dam. Dam is the passion and the excitement and so on. That's more about rising upwards. That's like heat, fire that rises upwards. Chalev indicates, the fats indicates gishmak and enjoyment. That's about coming down. That's also the same idea of nachas ruach. First of all, the simple meaning of nachas ruach is about enjoyment, pleasure, nachas ruach. But also Chassidus explains nachas ruach means nachas is also from the word nechois darga, that it's coming down a level. The spirit of the Eibishter is coming down, is resting down here. And this is expressed primarily through the wine. Dugmas hayayin, similar to wine. And we see that wine is also about the hamshacha pnimis. Where do we see that wine is hamshacha pnimis? Zelwin on nesachim kipshutai, that's the idea of nesachim. And the simple sense, wine is about hamshacha pnimis. Why do we see this hamshacha pnimis? Yain yisamach levav. Wine will make rejoice the heart of a person. Hamsamech elakim va'anoshim. It makes rejoice elakim and men. However, we touch the word elakim. What is the idea of this rejoicing? And what does rejoicing have to do with the idea of pnimis? It says, the wine itself was hidden away and concealed in the grapes. And then it went out from a concealed state to a revealed state. Therefore, he makes rejoice, because rejoicing has to do with revelation. The idea of rejoicing is about revelation. That's why it says, the level of mother, the level of bina is the source of the idea of simcha. Yom Tov is a maidim with simcha, because Yom Tovim is made the level of bina, of ima. Therefore, it's about revealed, open revelation of what's going on inside. Also, simcha opens up channels of revelation that a person would not have otherwise. That's also the meaning that says Mesameach Elikim Va'anosh. What's it mean, Mesameach Elikim, according to Chassidus? I know this means, like we spoke about before concerning Bereshis Bar Elikim, that there's the world away, it's in a concealed state. I knew Bereshis Bar Elikim, that in the level of Bereshis Bar Elikim, what we said, Havaya and godliness is something that's concealed. Is Galaha Inyan the Beyoim Asois Havaya Elikim, top of page Lamed Aleph, should become revealed idea on the day that Havaya Elikim made. To such a degree that he brings the sun out of its sheath, like we said earlier. That's the Mesameach Elikim, because Simcha, which comes through wine, which wine is revealed from the grapes, is the idea about revealing the person that ordinarily, when he's not in a state of Simcha, he's not so revealed, and so on. The same thing, we reveal the Elikim to show the Havai that's in. This also affects in people, like it says, what does it affect in people? That should become revealed by people, the inner part of the neshama and the kudus hayadus, the pintel yid, the point of Yiddishkeit. That wasn't something that didn't exist. It just has to be revealed. This existed also prior. Even when the person sinned, the neshama was faithful to the Eibishter. But the problem is, previously, this before he had the level of the yayin, before he had the level of the nesachim, it was concealed, it was covered. Now it reveals and it leads the expansion of the soul, that the soul, the neshama, the inner yid should become revealed. And not only that, and also the Nekudas Hayadis now becomes in charge, and it will give not just life force and vitality and reveal itself in the body, it will also reveal itself in the Nefesh HaBahamis and in its part in the world. Through the fact that the neshama will affect and permeate to run his thought, speech, and even his deed. Also in the avodah of all your actions should be for the sake of heaven, and all your ways should know, meaning in all aspects of the yid, through the level of yayin, which reveals what's going on inside, through the level of simcha, is revealed in the neshama to impact everything that the yid comes in contact with, every moment, every second, etc. Any question?
So we need a lot of l'chaim?
Or we need to have a lot of simcha. Okay, Ois Daled, line 12, the 8th page of your copies, page Lamanal. Hine dugmas in the oil of Zavach Minchon Nesach Betoida Mitzvahs Atzmam, similar to the idea of a carbon oil and a carbon zevach, which usually goes on the oil versus the shlomim, and the idea of the meal offering and the wine that was poured on his beach. Torah mitzvahs itself, who in Kriyas Shema vet film, is the idea of Kriyas Shema and film, like we said, that whoever is makriv on oil b'loy mincha or zevach b'loy nesachim, it's as if he reads Kriyas Shema without film. And the previous Maimon made a big emphasis of asking this question: what's the association? Why is there this type of comparison? It's apples and oranges. What's the just because these two things go together, that's why those two things go together? What's the significance? The idea behind this is the Kriyas Shema, who Mashakasa the pasuk edition Shema Yisrael Avayla came Avayachot. The idea of Kriyas Shema is what it says in the first pasuk. It says Shema Yisrael. What's the idea of Shema Yisrael? It's a proclamation of complete devotion and self-sacrifice to the Eibush. So in Hamasiris Nefesh, that's the idea of self-sacrifice. When a person says Avayachod, a person needs to have in mind the idea that he is, even in the simple sense, that he's ready to give up his life for the Eibush. But it's and it's brought down this, and he says on the side that the Bach brings us down that a person needs to literally be willing, like it says, by B'chol Nafshecha, to give up his life for Hashem, and he has that in mind by saying Havaya Echad. Also, it means self-sacrifice, giving up my whole being for Hashem. Close in Parsha Rishon, the general idea of the first Parsha of Krishma, the Ikris, and the primary Parsha of Krishma, with the Pasuk Rishon, similar to the first pasuk of Krishma. What's the general message of the first pasuk in the first parsha of Krishma? Ukabolos oil malchus shamayim is the acceptance of the yoke of the kingdom of heaven. As the Chazal famously say, why is Parsha Shema come before Parsha Shemaya? First, accept upon yourself the yoke of heaven, and then accept upon yourself the yoke of mitzvahs, which is Vayim Shemaya Tishma. So too, in the first Parsha Krishma, there's the avoid of loving Hashem your God, with all your heart, with all your soul, until with all your might. And also another taija b'chol moedecham, it means b'chol midah v'midah shu moeded lacham. In every state and situation, in every measure that he measures out to you, you have to have the love of the Eibishter. Meaning, whether when things are going good, where possibly our love for the Eibishter is in a very powerful mode, and when things are not necessarily that great, so maybe that love weakens. Or just the opposite, sometimes when we're more cognizant of Hashem, when things are not the way they're supposed to be, or when things are the way they're supposed to be, and maybe not so. So we're saying, B'chol midah, that's B'chol moedech. A person has to stay in such a way of connection to Hashem. And also, moedech, as we know, Chassidus always says, moed means from very, going beyond, it's beyond measure and boundary. And what's the ultimate love that's beyond measure and boundary? Until the idea of self-sacrifice. So the entire message of the first parsha of Kriya Shema is Mesiras Nefesh, not just the first pasuk, but also when we come to the Av of Hashem, to the ultimate Moedech. So that's Kriya Shema. What about the tefillin that we have to wear? Not the idea of tefillin is loyam shakas not the idea of drawing down the love into the heart. The primary idea of attributes and emotions are to be found in the heart. And so now the Rebbe says in the parentheses that it doesn't mean that there's only emotions in the heart. There's also an expression and a manifestation of the intellect in the heart as well. Though in the heart, there is also the intellect, the way it's associated and has a connection with the emotion. Like the idea with all your heart, with all your soul, that includes all the 10 soul powers. Not only that there should be the love in the heart. There should be also the drawing down and the revelation of the intellect as well. Like the literal halach in Shulchan Aruch, that it's not just enough to put on the tefillin, but also part of the mitzvah of tefillin is that we have that recognition and awareness. It's the idea of subjugating the brain and the heart to Hashem, and it begins from making the brain sublimated to Hashem. First, the way how it's sublimated is in a encompassing way. And afterwards, it comes down also internally. And this internalization of the intellect being sublimated and subjugated to Hashem. So there's different levels of the intellect. Whether we're talking about the moichin of the spheres of the 10 spheres of or the 9 spheres of Zeir Anpin. That's the idea of the head film. The head film having it 4 parshas corresponding to Chachma Bina, and Das is divided into 2, so you have four altogether. The Hein Moich in the Nukven, also the intellect that belongs to Malchus, Tun Shayad, Kabbalah says, has to do with the intellect having to do with Malchus. And that's still not enough. In the Hamshach Pnimius, you have to go even further down. Afterwards, through the straps of the film that hang down, and also the straps that we wind around our arm, through that it comes down lower and lower. Film, like it's explained at length in the Ramaram that discussed film. That's what the Chazal said, that the entire Torah was likened to tefillin. Why was the entire Torah likened to tefillin? Klolus Inyan Kol HaMitzvahs, the general idea of all mitzvahs. V'chein limrat Torah, so to Torah study, the ikaram, and their main point is to draw down from above to below. The dvarim gashmin and physical matters. Like film b'klav gashmin, for example, film in physical parchment. That the physical parchment is limited, it's bounded. The gashmin is in the physical world. Literally. From them we make idea of tefillin. Tefillin, the inner meaning of tefillin is related to the word tefillah. Tefillah is, Chassidus always speaks about how it's about joining, like a playful plecheres. So tefillin is about the chibur l'Hakadosh Baruch Hu. So that's the message of all the mitzvahs about this joining with the Eibush. Until the way they are in their place, in the state and situation of something that is down here below. In other words, in the physical world, we are making something that's joined with the Eibishter. Nasim, dear Luis Baruch, we become a home for the Eibishter. And a very important thing about the home, we were the whole time emphasizing that it's not just enough that the Amshacha should be b'chetzoin. It's important to have that the Amshacha comes down in the Pnimius. So he's saying that is what happens when we talk about a dira. A dira means that the whole pnimius of the person is there. In a home is found also the inner aspect of the one that lives in. Just the opposite. Pnimius would be the main idea of the pnimius is revealed specifically in the home. As opposed to outside, the person is covered in a garment and in many garments, like it's simply seen and understood. The the reason why it's so physically is because it came down from that way above, from the inner aspect, the way the matters are in the supernal man, which means the way it's Natzilus, and even higher than that, that only in a dira is the whole pnimius there. But other than that, the dira doesn't, if it's not a dira, it doesn't have it. So therefore, when we make a dira today, through Torah mitzvahs, we're bringing down like tefillin into the physical. So now he's going to conclude, that's what it says, whoever reads Kriya Shema without putting on film, it says if you brought oil without the meal offering, without the wine pouring. That film, just the idea of Kriya Shema alone, without putting on film. It's like an oilam and a carbon. It does have the ascent and going up from below to above. Until the ultimate level, where the carbon is consumed through the fire of above. Until it's called my carbon, my bread for my fire. It's Hashem's bread, it's Hashem's fire, and so on. There still has to be the primary level, the perfection of it. Drawing down below, that occurs through the mincha and the nesachim. Through that we draw down the most highest things that were affected through the avoid of Kriya Shema, the highest levels that we reach. That's not enough. It needs to be through tefillin and through the nesachim. It's in such a way that's drawn down very, very much below. But not just also down below, but specifically down here below should be the revelation of the primary level of the Shekhinah.